us off with some college football.
Okay. I did not do a top 25 this week. Didn't really seem like it was needed this week.
Not necessary. Yeah, I mean, only quite a few teams played.
I will say I agree 100% with the way that the playoff broke out.
I do too. I'm surprised it ended up breaking out the way it did, to be
I
honest
am
with
too.
you. But I am stoked about it as well. I think it presents some really, really good semifinal matchups for the first time. Like, I really do think. I mean, let's go
Potentially,
ahead and
anyway.
say it. So Georgia's number one, Michigan's number two, TCU's number three, and Ohio State is number four. After USC loses, TCU also loses, but we'll get into that. But I
Yep.
think Georgia versus OSU and Michigan versus TCU, both pretty good matchups.
Potentially could be good matchups.
I agree.
Um, I as much as Michigan's way more talented than TCU, I can't really see in my brain TCU getting blown out, but I definitely can't see TCU blowing out Michigan.
Right.
I
So that's going to be a grinded out. It
yeah,
could be a high scoring close game or a low scoring close game.
yeah, who
But either
knows?
way, it's going to be close.
And then Georgia, I think, can blow Ohio State out because I think they could break their will to live pretty early on
Especially
in the
after
game.
their last game was against Michigan and it went the way that it did.
Right. So
I could definitely see that happening too.
if shit starts going sideways on Ohio State early on, like it could really start going downhill.
Right. And even if it does go a little bit sideways for Georgia at any point, they're used to kind of bouncing back. They've
Yeah.
had some close games where they actually had to deal with some adversity and so I think they should be fine and be able to pull that one out. But obviously getting Ohio State at 4 after the type of season that we've had is probably one of your biggest threats that you could have seen at number 4.
Yeah,
So I
for
mean,
sure.
so I hope it is good because I am sick of the whole one just beating the shit out of 4. Even though obviously I would
Yeah.
be okay with it this year,
Right.
but I really do want to see like an actual good college football playoff game. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it'd
And
be
I
fun.
think both of these have the potential for that. So
They definitely do. I guess there's really only 2 games for us to get into from over the weekend.
yep.
Just to run down the other games.
Can I get that rundown, Jim?
Michigan kind of struggled a little bit with Purdue, but it never really felt that even as close as the score was. It never really felt
True.
like Purdue was going to win the game. They were kicking field goals a lot in the third and fourth quarter, and Michigan ended up pulling away at the end. Biggest surprise for me was Clemson beating the absolute shit out of North Carolina.
Right.
North Carolina's really just had a rough end to the season here. I think it's 3 straight that they've lost now to wrap up the season.
I don't know if it was quite that bad.
I think it's 3 straight.
Yep. Georgia Tech, North Carolina State, and Clemson now. But they do
Yeah.
get to play Oregon in the San Diego County Credit Union Holiday Bowl.
Yeah, there you go. Who doesn't want to go to the Holiday Bowl?
Hey.
And then Georgia beat LSU by 20. LSU kind of hung in a little more than I thought they would have, but
There for a little bit, but then yeah, Georgia definitely put it away. And I honestly, I mean, we will talk about it here in a second because I want to ask you, but I feel like Stetson Bennett kind of helped climb himself up the Heisman ladder maybe a little bit. So
he should
Don't
not
you?
be a finalist. He should not. He should not. Absolutely no way. Should he be a
look
finalist?
at the numbers, and he can rush too. Like
his numbers are not
and
good.
They're not
compared to a Heisman. His numbers are not that good.
Yeah, but there's no like blow away, take it away Heisman.
There's not,
year.
but there's a bunch of guys that are more deserving of being a finalist than Stetson
I hate
Bennett.
that Hendon Hooker got hurt because obviously
he should still be a finalist.
I know.
He should still be a finalist. He got hurt in his last game of the season.
However, he got
next
hurt,
last game,
and that factors into it. It does.
It
as much as we don't want it, might not shouldn't.
Like if you're going to take somebody from Georgia, if somebody from Georgia is going to be a finalist, how about Carter? Carter is absolutely more of a difference maker for Georgia than Stetson Bennett is.
I'll just say, in the
I know the whole best player, best team thing, but like if you run down Georgia's roster, is Stetson Bennett in the top 15 of best players on that team? Probably not.
I mean, but that's how it goes, man. Quarterback. I mean, quarterback always
It's
gets
not a
more praise
quarterback
than they
award
should.
though. It's the most outstanding player, and he's like the 15th most outstanding player on Georgia's roster.
I mean, they have a really
You can't
deep
argue
roster, so
that.
I can't. No, I can't because they have a really good roster. They do have some really good football players on their team. I just know that in games that have mattered this season, because obviously, I mean, yeah, I watched Georgia, but in a college football Saturday, if there's other better games on, I'm gonna watch them. So I haven't watched like every snap from Georgia football this year. But in the games that have mattered and that have been close and that I have watched, Stetson Bennett just plays at a high level. He's got good numbers. He can rush.
He's a good
Um,
quarterback. And the only reason he's there is because he's the quarterback on the defending national champion team, and
undefeated
they're
defending national
undefeated.
team.
But it's absolutely moronic to say that to have him being a Heisman finalist, in my opinion.
It's a stretch to say moronic. It might he might not have had
I
like
can name
deserved to be the top four, but
I can name 4 other quarterbacks alone that should be there rather than Stetson Bennett.
hey, in an SEC title game where we haven't won it in a while, he had what was it? Dang it, I just had it on here. 23 of 29 for 274 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, those are good numbers. Those are good numbers. But like Max Duggan, I'm fine with being there. CJ Stroud, I'm fine with being there. Caleb Williams, I'm fine with being there.
Who do you give it to then?
I'd probably still take Drake May. He has far more numbers.
I want to know who you would give it to of the finalists.
Of the finalists? Yeah, Caleb Williams.
Caleb Williams?
Caleb Williams, hands down.
He definitely was in the lead for it going into that game against Utah. I think that hurt him. But
he got hurt in the game too.
Yeah, so that kind of sucked.
Let's talk about that game because I did not expect it to be a blowout.
I didn't either,
especially after
the way
USC.
The game
yeah,
was last time they played. That was insane. So, first of all, let's go ahead and say, like you said, it's really hard to beat the same team twice in a season.
Very difficult.
And they got that done.
And they were up 7
easily.
And USC was up 17-3 in the second quarter. And they scored 7. They got outscored 44-7 after that.
That is rough.
That is insane.
So rough. Yeah, that is insane. Utah just didn't want to quit. They weren't done. They wanted to prove that they should have still been up there. It's crazy that USC beat everybody else and then lost to Utah twice.
Yeah. But you know what? Utah is like Michigan light in a lot of ways.
I can see that.
They're a tough team. They run the ball. They can break your will to live if you don't smash them back. If you don't punch Utah back, they will just continuously punch you until you are unconscious.
Yep, and that's what they did. I mean, Cam Rising had a game, dude. He had a hell of a game. He took some big hits too.
Yeah, Cam Rising got a good quarterback.
Back up.
I like Cam Rising a lot, and he was kind of hurt at different points this season, which definitely hurt Utah. I think that there was an interception in the game against Florida that was one of their losses. Then the other 2 losses, I think Cam Rising was kind of struggling and he couldn't really run around as much, and that really hurt this team.
Yeah,
like Utah, I had Utah in the top 8 to begin the season, or I think I had them number 4 actually to start the season because I really liked this team, and I still like this team. They just, they had a couple of games where things didn't quite go their way.
Well, there's a reason we play the games.
Yeah, that's a good football team, though.
Yeah. But yeah, I was really surprised that it ended up getting out of hand so bad for USC. But like we talked about, Caleb Williams got a little bit hurt. He ended up throwing a bad pick before it got too out of hand, and it just snowballed. And they just never were able to make it even close again after Utah took away with it.
Yeah. And that game got out of hand. And then when it got out of hand, it was like the Michigan-Ohio State game. It really got out of hand.
Yep, it did. So let's talk about the other good one.
The other good one was Kansas State beating TCU
Battle of the Purple.
31-28 in overtime. Yeah.
Hell of a game.
Yeah, it was a fun one to watch. It was
It
a
was.
lot of fun to watch. And I always talk about this, about like, this team almost won, but it never felt like they could win. Like the whole game, like it kind of felt you could tell early on, like Kansas State could win this game.
Oh yeah, it
Like
felt
they can play with them.
back and forth. Definitely, I agree with you. Like it literally was like, I don't know, maybe I don't know, and then they were up 28-17, and it took TCU to have to come back and go down the field and score. And
which TCU's done all season. They have been comeback kings all season. And Max Duggan had a really good game. It definitely wasn't his most proficient passing game, 18-36, but that's partly because they're one of those teams that like our receivers are better than your corners. We're just going to throw it up there and see what they can do. And they definitely did that
quite a bit. Yeah, but I mean, he also had 15 carries for 110 yards and a rushing touchdown too. So
which
he
helps.
was getting the job done.
And Quentin Johnson, 4 catches, 139 yards. Like that dude is an NFL receiver.
Yeah, it's insane he didn't end up in the end zone at all, but damn, dude, 139 yards.
It's kind of how his season has gone in a lot of cases, because like he has 53 catches for 903 yards, but only 5 touchdowns.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
That's Justin Jefferson like.
Right. He's all over the field except the end zone.
Yeah, that's like Julio Jones back in the day, man. Oh, I'll never forget the 300-yard game he had with 0 touchdowns. 300 receiving yards.
It just doesn't make any sense.
0 touchdowns.
What did you make
sometimes though?
What did you make of the decision at the end to go for it on 4th down at the goal line?
I don't mind it at all. I actually, with the way it was going, now here's my thing. You don't hand the ball off at the 5-yard line. Like, you do a QB sneak twice with Max Duggan on 3rd down. Like, you're right there. Max Duggan's a big guy. There's no reason he doesn't either go under his lineman or jump over and reach. Like, they were that close where Max Duggan could have definitely just scored himself.
Yeah, I think you do one of two things. You either do the QB sneak, which would have been difficult because their offensive line in the center was kind of getting pushed back a little bit, or you just put Max Duggan in the shotgun, put a back beside him, let him make the decision of
RPO.
Am I handing it off? Am I passing it? Am I running it myself?
I wouldn't have hated that either, because then you make the linebacker or whoever you're checking or you're reading
make a decision
to make the decision. Yeah, you're putting it on them instead of you. And
put the ball in the hands of your best player and let him operate. Now,
but you don't run a dive twice. He was definitely gassed.
He was absolutely gassed.
That's true, and that might be why they didn't QB sneak.
Yeah, he may not have had anything left, and they might have known that he had absolutely nothing left, because those last couple of drives where he was just willing his team down the field.
And that probably had a lot to do with the fact of them even going for it. They were like, look, it's all or nothing right here. Either we go for it and we get it, or we kick a field goal and we're going to end up tied again and we're right back in this scenario.
Yeah.
Because I did trust – I'm sure they trusted their defense. I trusted their defense. Now, obviously, Kansas State didn't really have to do anything at that point.
Different situation when a field goal beats you, but –
yeah. So it's just tough, though. I would have definitely had a different play call. Like I said, I would have QB snuck it twice. Like on 3rd down, I would have tried it and see what happens. And then on 4th down, you should be closer. Yeah. And if you're not, then you definitely have to do another play, a different kind of play.
Or if he's not completely gassed and if he's got a little bit left, you could get away with a bootleg there and have the tight end sneak out on the weak side. Yeah, that play might have worked.
Yeah,
it might have worked. Now it might not. You might get clobbered at the 6. You might get clobbered at the 6, but
I'd rather try that than just 2 dives. Like, it was basically just two halfback dives,
and that wasn't there the whole game.
One.
Exactly. That was not there the whole game, and
that didn't make sense.
Didn't make a lot of sense to me. No.
Yeah, I liked the decision to go for it. Did not like the play call.
Yeah, I like aggression. I like going for it, but
especially in today's day and age,
you got to get the right play call in there. This isn't 1990 where you just
No.
hand it to the back and try and get the yard that way. You got to do something a little different.
Now, obviously, he does make it in. We're sitting here having a different conversation. However,
Of course,
he didn't get in, and it just seems like the bad call. So, but
yeah, it
regardless,
happens.
Fortunately for everybody, really, TCU still made it because they are only a one-loss team. They lost in their title game. The only reason people would want to put anybody else is just because of recency bias, just because it was the most recent game they
Yeah,
played. But if you look at the whole season together, they've had some really good wins against some high quality teams in pressure situations. They've had a guy that's competing for a Heisman. They've got the big receivers. Like, they deserve to be in the playoff. So I'm
yeah,
really
I
glad.
agree.
It should be a good one, man. Like I
Yeah,
said,
the
I
top
think both
four,
matchups should be
the
good.
top four that they came up with is the same top four that I would have had.
I agree.
So